This is Kay Morrissey, a devoted wife and mother, living a peaceful life with her husband Joe and their 5-year-old son Patrick.
Let me ask you something. Do you know what a lie is? A lie?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's when you don't tell the truth and you do something bad.
And what happens when you tell a lie?
You get in trouble.
But on the night of April 5th, 2010, everything changed. A brutal home invasion shattered their world, leaving Joe dead and Kay and Patrick fighting for survival. On the night of April 5th, 2010, the seemingly perfect life of the Morrissey family in Plantation, Florida took a shocking turn. At 10 p.m., Joe Morrissey had fallen asleep on the couch in front of the television. His wife, Kay Morrissey, was working late in her craft room, while their 5-year-old son Patrick lay in the master bedroom pretending to be asleep. Moments later, Patrick was awakened by the screams of his parents. What he witnessed that night would go down as one of the most terrifying home invasions in Florida's history. 2 hours later, shortly after midnight, Kay's adult daughter Christina, who lived just 10 minutes away, was awakened by the ringing of her phone, an unusual call at such a late hour. On the other end of the line was her mother, Kay, but the chaos and sirens in the background made it difficult to understand her. You need to come here right now," Kay cried.
"You have to come here, you have to get here right now."
Christina rushed to the Morrissey home, only to find the street blocked by emergency vehicles. Pushing past the officers, she ran toward her mother, who was standing in the middle of the road wearing blood-soaked pajamas.
I saw her standing in the middle of the road in her pajamas, completely covered in blood, and I just remember thinking how small she looked and how helpless she looked.
He's gone, Kay sobbed, leaving Christina confused. At first, she thought her mother was referring to the intruders, but Kay clarified, "No, Joe is gone. They killed him."
I thought she was talking about the people who had gotten to the house, and I said, "It's okay, they'll find them," and she goes, No, Joe is gone. They killed him."
The Morrissey home, located at 601 Northwest 75th Terrace, was in flames when Christina arrived. The scene was chaotic. Neighbors had gathered outside while first responders worked frantically. Kay was in shock, struggling to process what had happened. Meanwhile, Patrick had been taken to a neighbor's house for safety. Christina had no idea at the time that her 5-year-old brother had witnessed the brutal crime and would soon become the key to solving the horrifying events of that night.
You knew something about some robbers or something?
The investigation began immediately, with both Kay and Patrick being questioned by detectives.
And he put these little time things on my mom and my dad, so they couldn't walk.
During her interview, Kay described hearing a noise that sounded like something falling to the floor.
You guys been married for how long?
13 years. They're gonna be 14 this year.
Easier to start with what happened from the beginning last night.
I was in my craft room and the TV was on and I heard a noise like something fall down. I look up, I saw him.
When she looked up, she saw a man inside the house. She recounted how the intruder tied her and Joe up before threatening them with a weapon. However, investigators found inconsistencies in Kay's statements, leading them to rely on Patrick's account, the only other eyewitness. In the next room, Patrick sat alone, waiting to be questioned. Despite his young age, he described what he had seen with astonishing clarity.
All right, Patrick. Let me ask you something. All right?
Yeah.
Do you know what a lie is? A lie?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's when you don't tell the truth and you do something bad.
And what happens when you tell a lie?
You get in trouble.
I know earlier you said you knew something about some robbers or something?
Yeah.
Well, like what
The
happened?
robber attacked our house and my dad died.
"Robbers broke into our house," he said, "and my daddy died." Patrick didn't fully understand the concept of death yet, but he remembered how the intruder pointed a gun at his parents' heads.
Were you awake when this happened, or were you sleeping?
Sleeping.
You were-
But I woke up myself.
Oh yeah? And when you woke
And he put a gun on my mom and dad's head.
He also recalled how the man tied up his mother and father before chaos erupted. As investigators pieced together the events, they identified a potential suspect, Randy Tundidor, a 43-year-old man with a history of legal troubles. Tundidor had been renting a property from the Morrisseys and was recently involved in a legal dispute with them, claiming he had slipped on a staircase. Detective Kendall from the Plantation Police Department visited Tundidor's home to question him.
Have you ever had any dealings with Mr. Morrissey other than being a tenant?
Yeah, well, right now I'm suing him because I fell down the stairs in the house because of lack of repairs. He stopped talking to me because of the lawsuit. When I met him, he seemed like a gentleman. Well, most of the night.
Did you call anybody?
Actually, my son called me. He needed money, but I won't help him.
Which son?
Randy Jr. First off, he's wanted by the law. Secondly, he's a crackhead.
Upon arrival, he found Tundidor frail, wearing an oxygen mask and visibly limping.
The guy that is renting the townhouse is suing us because he said he slipped on the stairs.
Given his physical condition, it was clear that he was hardly capable of carrying out such a violent attack. When police learned that there was an outstanding warrant for Randy Tundidor Jr. due to a probation violation, they turned to his father, Randy Tundidor Sr., for help in locating him.
Very, very willing to talk to me.
I don't have no connection with this murder. I don't know who did it. I want to clear my name because I did not commit this murder. I did call my dad. You know, he's been a good father. Like, he tries to direct me the right way and I go the wrong way, you know. He's really a good man. He's a very hard worker. He's a stand-up guy. And he would never do nothing like this.
Honestly, I think you may be involved in it.
Okay.
That's why we've gotta clear the air.
And I understand.
You know what I mean?
When investigators arrived to question Jr., they found him calm and cooperative, even showing curiosity about the evidence against him. I had nothing to do with this murder, Randy Jr. insisted. I want to clear my name because I didn't commit this crime. The interrogation lasted for hours as Detective Kendall searched for inconsistencies. Jr. remained composed, but his answers, especially about his father, raised suspicions. My father was a good father. He tries to steer me in the right direction, Jr. explained, but I'm going the wrong way. He's a hardworking man, a decent guy. He would never do something like this. Despite their suspicions, the police could not link Randy Jr. to the crime scene, and the investigation reached a dead end.
Little to say outside his shop.
He's my son. I love him to death, and I'm going to support him till the end.
The situation became even more complicated when Kay Morrissey revealed that a second person was present during the break-in. She described how the intruders used walkie-talkies, suggesting coordination with someone else.
It was like a two-way radio, and he would talk back to it. And
Were there people talking to him on it?
he didn't let them. He said, just listen to me, don't talk.
However, without solid evidence or new leads, the case stalled, and the brutal murder of Joe Morrissey remained unsolved. As days turned into weeks, the Morrissey family struggled with their grief. Kay insisted on a closed casket funeral to protect their 5-year-old son, Patrick, from further trauma. But Patrick had difficulty understanding his father's absence. He often looked up at airplanes and said, "My dad is coming home." His confusion and signs of post-traumatic stress disorder increased the pressure to seek justice for Joe Morrissey. Then the case took an unexpected turn.
My mom, she did not want his memory to be attached to that night. So that was why she insisted on it being a closed casket.
I did not want Patrick to see his dad in that condition at all. Patrick had a very difficult time understanding. He thought that he would look at an airplane and says, "My dad is on that airplane, he's coming home." That was very hard for me. Literally, my heart was just in pieces.
Investigators received a call from Sean Tundidor, the younger son of Randy Sr. He requested a meeting, claiming to have important information. When Sean spoke to the investigators, he dropped a bombshell. It was my father. Sean explained that the morning after the murder, his brother, Randy Jr., turned on the news. The headlines reported a break-in and murder in Plantation. Randy got up, went to the back porch, and lit a cigarette, Sean recalled. I asked him, "Brother, tell me you had nothing to do with this." He said, "Go ask Dad." Sean confronted his father and asked if he had seen the news. His father's chilling response was, "Shut up or I'll kill you if I have to."
That you know your brother, you know he's a lot of things, but you know he's not capable of murder. You said that you had some knowledge of,
Basically, Randy, my brother, turned on the news. And first thing when I turn on, murder in Plantation, early this morning, women, whatever. Brother gets up and he walks to the back porch and starts smoking a cigarette. And I don't know, family, you get instincts. You're not stupid. You know your family. You know what I'm saying? So I walked out in the back and I said, "Bro, tell me you had nothing to do with that." And he said, "Let's go talk to Dad." So I walked upstairs, surprised. "You seen the news?" He said, "You need to shut up." He said, "'Cause I'll kill you if I have to."
Sean claimed he had always suspected his father was capable of violence. Known by nicknames like Rampage and Scarface, Randy Sr. had a history of abusing his family. With Sean's statement implicating his father, investigators gained new momentum in the case, but they needed concrete evidence to support his claims.
I knew. Right when I saw that headline on that news, I knew it was them. So I asked my dad. I said, "What happened?" And his words were, "A dead man can't evict me."
Sean proposed a daring plan. "What if I get my father on tape confessing to the murder? Give me 2 hours with him." The investigators agreed and equipped Sean with a recording device disguised as a car key. That night, Sean returned home determined to get a confession from his father. For 2 tense hours, he skillfully asked questions, pretending to be concerned for both his father and his brother. The next morning, Sean handed the recording device over to the police, convinced it contained damning evidence. But when investigators tried to download the audio, there was a glitch. The first playback was filled with static and distorted noises, raising fears that the device hadn't worked properly. Eventually, the recording became clearer. The conversation between Sean and his father revealed crucial details about the murder.
You know, Randy, so that he can keep the money to get crack. I know he has a bad brother. My dad pulls out 100 worth of crack and he tells him to smoke it. When it was done, he told my brother he has a customer's house they can go rob and get cash and buy all the crack he wants. You're not asking my brother that, you're asking a crackhead that now.
Investigators realized they were closing in on the real mastermind behind the crime. On the night of April 5th, 2010, Randy Tundidor Sr. manipulated his eldest son, Randy Jr., into committing a crime that would forever change their lives and destroy another family. Desperate for his father's approval, Randy Jr. succumbed to his manipulative tactics. Before they left, Randy Sr. gave his son $100 worth of crack and told him to smoke it. After he did, his father presented him with a proposal: rob a client's house, steal cash, and buy as much crack as he wanted. This was not the guidance of a father, but the exploitation of his son's addiction. The client Randy Sr. targeted was Joe Morrissey, a respected man who had no idea he was about to become the victim of a planned home invasion. As the Tundidors broke into the Morrissey home, chaos erupted. Joe and his wife Kay were ambushed and restrained with zip ties. The intruders, armed with a hunting knife and using walkie-talkies to coordinate, demanded money. Joe pleaded for his family's safety, but his words fell on deaf ears. As the nightmare unfolded, the Morrisseys' 5-year-old son, Patrick, lay terrified under the covers in his parents' bedroom. He listened to the muffled screams and footsteps outside the door, too afraid to move. When the front door finally slammed shut and silence filled the house, Patrick remained motionless. Minutes later, the footsteps returned, and his parents were forced into the bedroom, towels over their heads. Patrick watched as they were made to kneel. His father's calm voice cut through the fear as Joe whispered his final words to him, telling him to stay quiet and still. Joe was dragged into the living room, leaving Patrick and Kay behind. Shortly after, Patrick heard his father pleading for his family's lives before an eerie silence filled the house. Patrick didn't know his father had been murdered. Lying beside his mother, still bound and weeping, Patrick could do nothing but listen. As the smell of smoke filled the house, Patrick knew he had to act. Overcoming his fear, he grabbed a pair of scissors from his mother's craft room and freed her from her restraints. Together, they escaped the growing fire, which the Tundidors had intentionally set to destroy evidence. The investigation into Joe Morrissey's murder led police to Randy Sr., whose business, Gator Tint, became a focal point. When investigators searched the premises, they found damning evidence: the stolen computer from the Morrissey home, an empty box of a hunting knife, foreign currency that had been reported stolen, and the walkie-talkies used during the break-in. Burn marks in the parking lot suggested that more evidence had been destroyed. The trail led directly to Randy Sr., and both he and Randy Jr. were arrested. Determined to seek justice, Kay Morrissey attended every moment of the trial, standing firmly for her husband and son. The courtroom was captivated as evidence was presented, but the most powerful testimony came from Patrick himself. Though he was too young to testify in person, a recorded interview of Patrick recounting the traumatic events of that night was played. The jury listened in silence as Patrick described what he witnessed, including his father's final words. Plagued by guilt, Randy Jr. testified and admitted his role in the crime. He even implicated his father. "A father's job is to protect his children, not harm them," he said, exposing the betrayal and manipulation he had suffered. Randy Sr. had used his sons as pawns in his violent schemes with no regard for their well-being. The verdict was swift and clear. Randy Jr. was sentenced to 40 years in prison for his involvement. Randy Sr., found guilty on 10 counts, including arson, armed robbery, kidnapping, attempted murder, and first-degree murder, was sentenced to death. For Kay and Patrick, justice was bittersweet. The man who had taken so much from them would never harm another family again, but the scars of that night would remain forever. Don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating videos like this one. Thanks for watching.